Venezuela present before the International Court of Justice in The Hague the preliminary objections to the claim of Cooperative Republic of Guyana for the rights over Guyana Esequiba. Russia denounced that the United States and its partners intend to include the Ukrainian conflict on the agenda of the Asian-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. As part of his official visit to Algeria, the president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, reported having reached agreements to both economic, commercial, financial, and cooperation ties to bring them to the level of political ones. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news, so stay with us. On Thursday, the Executive Vice President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, presented before the International Court of Justice in The Hague the preliminary objections to claim of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana for the rights over Guyana Esequiba. In court, Rodriguez explained why Guyana's claims is inadmissible and stressed the unwavering and legitimate rights of Venezuela under the disputed territory. The Executive Vice President stressed that the national government will not allow a new territorial disposition and will defend its legitimate claims over the Guyana Esequiba and in all instances. The Guyana Esequiba has been part of the Venezuelan territory since its confirmation as a general captaincy in 1777 and since its foundation as a republic in 1811 and the Geneva Agreement in 1966. The outrule the fraudulent arbitrary War of Paris of 1899.
So, we prove with legal arguments, with evidence, we brought historical maps that demonstrate our ownership over this territory since 1777, but we have also demonstrated the fraud. The fraud has been completely evidenced, and it is even more evident that Guyana cannot pretend to come in the year 2020 or 2018 and present a unilateral demand that seeks to disregard the Geneva Agreement, which is the only special law that exists and rules between the parties to resolve the territorial dispute over the territory of the Guyana Esequiba.
The Venezuelan Vice President called on the Cooperative Republic of Guyana to respect international laws as well as to resume negotiations on the territorial dispute over the Esequiba Guyanese territory.
It is unheard of that newly signed, the Treaty of 1899 could be made with one of the signatories in absentia, in this case the United Kingdom. Who are the signatories of the 1887 treaty, of the negotiating process that ended with an arbitration ruling? Who were the parties involved? It was not the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, because, as I said already, it had not been established as republic. So, it is an unfounded request. As we have said in numerous occasions, we invite them to act according to the international law, that the Geneva Agreement be respected, so that we can go back to the negotiating table to find a solution.
In Colombia, the 6th edition of the China-Colombia Dialogue organized by Chinese Embassy in Bogotá and the Colombia-Chinese Chamber of Investment and Commerce began on Thursday. In Colombia, the 6th edition of the China-Colombia Dialogue organized by the Chinese Embassy in Bogotá and the Colombia-Chinese Chamber of Investment and Commerce began this Thursday. Representatives of the Bogotá Mayor's office and the several Chinese companies are taking part in the meeting. Chinese ambassador in Bogotá, Mr. Lan Yu, said China's investment in Colombia are a key factor in the country's economic development. He said direct Chinese investment in Colombia during the first quarter of this year amounted to $243 million. The Chinese diplomat said the exchange between the two countries will offer a wider scope and infinite possibilities of cooperation, as well as the integral development of other Colombian industries. Another Chinese government official said that relations between the two countries have always maintained a good momentum. Peru's Prime Minister Aníbal Torres requests for Congress to pass a motion of truce regarding a process that could lead to the dissolution of parliament tensions with the executive. But by members of his cabinet, the president of the ministers' councils raised before the preliminary of Congress and a motion of truce on a bill that seeks to repeal Law 31-389, which reinforces the scope of a referendum. The norm modifies Article 40 and 44 of the Law of the Rights of Participation and the Citizens' Control. After the Prime Minister's presentation, Congress President Jose William Zapata postpones the preliminary session until 3 p.m. local time to review the issue. In Bolivia, the High Electoral Court answered this Thursday to the petition for the redistributing parliament seats introduced by the Department of Santa Cruz. At a press conference, the Electoral Court announced that in order to redistribute seats in the Assembly for 2025, the official census data must be delivered to them by September 2024 at least 3 months ahead of the deadline set by the government. However, the final census results will be delivered in December 2024, thus preventing such redistribution for the 2025 presidential elections from taking place. In this regard, the president of the High Electoral Court, Oscar Asem Tufel, said that due to the nature of the activities that they undertake, the Electoral Court must have the information. We'll take our very first break now, but remember you can now follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. Republicans have won control of the United States House of Representatives after the decisive results of last week's midterm elections came in, returning the party to power in Washington. But a slim majority will pose immediate challenges for the Conservative Party's leaders and complicate its ability to govern. Republicans secured the 218 seats needed to fill the House from Democratic control. Even with a slim majority, the party will have notable power. They will control key committees, giving them the ability to shape legislation and launch investigations, including the potential into President Biden, his administration, and his family. And the legislation that emerged from the House could face steep doubts in the Senate, where Democrats won the rest of majority on Saturday. As the global economy struggles, the once booming tech industry in the United States is far from imminent, with big tech companies like Twitter, Meta, and now Amazon laying off thousands of workers. More than 100,000 tech workers have been laid off this year to date, surpassing the total of all of 2020, when the world was in the midst of the debilitating COVID-19 pandemic. The latest big name to cut a staff number is online shopping powerhouse Amazon, which began the process of laying off an expected 10,000 workers this week. Over the past month, other companies like Microsoft, Meta, and Twitter follow suit. However, one company that is so far reformed from quit is Apple. Some specialists believe this is because they are being more cautious in their recruitment, while others like Google might yet be preparing for expansion. Russia denounced that the United States and its partners intend to include the Ukrainian conflict on the agenda of the Asian-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. Russian Foreign Minister, the Special Missions Ambassador representing Moscow at the Asian-Pacific Economic Cooperative Forum, Kirill Vaisky, regretted that the constructive work at the APEC during 2022 has been hindered by Australia, Canada, the United States, New Zealand, and Japan with their attempts to politicize the forum. In addition, he said the West is trying to blame Russia for an unfavorable world economic situation, while Moscow is trying to expand that a global recession is due to an disrupts in supply chains, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the unilateral measures against it. The United Nations Organization will conduct renewal of food agreements that facilitates the export of grains and other products across the Black Sea. The Secretary General Antonio Guterres held on Thursday the extension of the agreement and stated that he welcomes with great satisfaction the pact that seeks to facilitate the safe navigation in the export of food and fertilizer from Ukraine. Was confirmed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky through his Twitter account. On the other hand, the President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, assured from the G20 summit in the island of Bali, Indonesia, that the Russian President Vladimir Putin consented to renew the agreement that allows the export of Russian grain and fertilizers. The final round of talks at the 27th Conference of the Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Egypt are intensifying as ministers across the world aim to reach agreement on a wide range of issues. The climate conference will conclude on Friday after 2 weeks of debates, meetings, and sidelines discussions. A number of key areas are seeing slow progress, including talks over the loss and damage found to help developing nations recover from the effects of the climate change. According to the attendance, several days of discussions to boost green hydrogen fuel products have yet positive result. If the talks in Sharm el-Sheikh do not produce a concrete agreement, Paris will have to put the vital climate issues on hold until COP28 next year in Dubai. Brazil's president-elect Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said at the COP27 that a global governance is needed for the fulfillment of climate-related decisions and commitments. Lula da Silva spoke during Brazil's Climate Action Hub event, a group created by Brazilian civil society organization to discuss climate actions. In his speech, da Silva called for the creation of an international body to ensure compliance with climate decisions that are often not implemented by the states. Lula defended that the climate change and poverty are two inseparable realities that must be fought together, and therefore he demanded a stricter punishment against those who hurt the environment. And we have more news coming up after this financial break, so don't go away. Welcome back. As part of his official visit to Algeria, the president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, reported having reached agreements to boost economy, commercial, financial, and cooperation ties to bring them to the level of political ones. At a press conference with his Algerian counterpart, the Cuban president highlighted the presence of high-level delegations from the largest of the Antilles that have arrived in the African country to Cuba. The Cuban president reaffirmed the will to continue with the brotherhood cemented by the historical leaders of both nations. He also affirmed that they have identified areas and projects of collaboration that are important and in which they will work together. The Syrian government announced an amnesty decree to benefit over 2,300 military and civilian individuals wanted by the prosecutor's office as an act of national reconciliation. The Syrian government announced an amnesty decree to benefit the quantity of individuals wanted by the prosecutor's office, and the program promoted by the Damascus aims at fostering national reconciliations. The decree will especially favor the military and civilian citizens whenever the prosecutor's office for the involvement in the armed conflict imposed by the West more than decades ago. Similar policies have generated positive results in the past, including the demobilization of violent groups and the voluntary surrendering of weapons and military equipment, which allows these sectors to regularize their legal situation in order to reincorporate themselves into society. The Qatar 2022 World Cup focuses the eye on the whole world on the Arabic Peninsula of Qatar, its culture, its history, and its people. From Doha, our special envoy Rolando Segura with the details.
The eyes of the world look to Qatar, the nation located in the Arabian Peninsula, which shares an 87-kilometer land border with Saudi Arabia. Just under 3 million inhabitants live here, but only 300,000 are Qatari. The rest migrants like the family of Pedro and Maria, who came from Spain in 2014. Since then, they say much has changed in these parts.
Not only at the building and infrastructure level, but also infrastructure, I believe that the country has opened up much more to the rest of the world.
Arriving in a country with Islam as the official religion and Wahhabi Sunnis as the most representative factions, Maria was confident of job opportunities, but imagined an extremely conservative culture with complications for the women.
And it has been just the opposite. It has its things, but within the religion, I live a normal life. I had my daughter here too, and they treated me very well in a Cuban hospital they have here, and they treated me very well. I didn't want to leave the hospital.
Qatar is an emirate ruled by the Al Thani family since the mid-19th century and refused to join the Federation of the United Arab Emirates when it became independent in 1971. After 55 years of British protectorate, the current king, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, is seen by many as a modernizer.
Qatar, of course, good county, Qatar is #1, Sheikh Tamim is #1, or like #1, Qatar of good place.
A territory with mild winters and extremely hot summers where the geography, practically desert, has not made its inhabitants arid.
They are lovely people, very welcoming and very helpful. They can do that for you.
The search for jewels was Qatar's economy engine for several centuries until price plummeted in the 1920s with the cultivation of pearls, especially in Japan. In 1939, oil made the nation rich, but it was its large natural gas reserves shared with Iran that allow it today one of the highest real gross domestic product per capita incomes in the world.
And it welcomes people from all religions, countries, as long as we respect that it is a Muslim country.
Qatar's sporting tradition has at its core camel racing, horse racing, and hunting with trained birds of prey. Football was inherited from migrants from the energy sector. The 2022 World Cup accelerated investment in infrastructure and began to position the country as a family, art and culture tourist destination.
Rolando Segura, teleSUR, Doha.
And with that story, we have come to the end of this is brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For telesur English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.